Hey bro, let us start this video with a proper question. Do you believe in one existing universal truth, or do you also feel that there's more than that? Keep that question in mind while you continue watching. We're going to return on it later on. The truth is more about internal consistency within a system of beliefs or cultural aspects. In contrast, others are convinced that the truth is all about objective, provable aspects. Some will say that the only truth is God, their God of course, while others insist truth is what you can see, observe, and prove. This is crucial to agree on a shared definition of truth. For instance, Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about 3 types of truth in a podcast: a scientific truth, backed by facts, and the scientific method. Examples include mathematical formulas for circumference, gravitational effects, and models of Earth's orbit. The only universally accepted method to challenge this truth is by proving something different using the same recognized scientific method steps: observation and questions, research, hypotheses and demonstrations, tests and experiments, data collection and analysis, report the conclusions and develop a theory. Even this kind of truth is up to debate for some people. Some believe the earth is flat, others trust vaccines save lives, and some think vaccines are tools the government used to harm certain ethnic groups. Additionally, there are many pseudoscientists in general in the digital world. If the scientific steps are not evident, the topics are considered options, as we typically rely on engineers to construct houses rather than bloggers. This is the right time to introduce facts versus opinions in our discussion. David Hume concluded that we can't know anything about the world with certainty because all interferes from experience fall prey to the problem of induction. The history of science is littered with crumpled up theories that scientists once believed, based on a great deal of evidence, which they now reject. If scientific truth is subjective to dismantling, what endures? A second type of truth would be personal truth. In this category fall all of your personal opinions, formed over time, some based on facts, some on something else, on the context, culture, or even on information copied and registered from different people you follow or accept as model. And the third one is the political truth, described as information repeated multiple times or believed and accepted, either because of the individual's political preferences or because it is against the opposition promotes. We all have those hardliner supporters of a political party among us. No matter the evidence presented, they have a counter-argument to either point out that you are mistaken or to highlight how the opposition was way worse. Sometimes they also get defensive and the counter-argument shift to more personal aspect, fact or opinion based. Before continuing this topic, I want to quickly let you know that if you want to increase your value as a person, either by getting a jacked body, making lots of money, or attracting people, and also you want a way to support the channel, you can click the link in the description. It's that easy. George Orwell once said, "He who controls the past controls the future." Before Orwell, Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "History is a set of lies agreed upon." The presented truth is quite different. Each book has a different version of the sequence of events and what triggered them. Every nation has shaped its historical truths to make them look better, adapting the narrative to make them more acceptable, reasonable, and appealing. An endless series of examples might be mentioned even if they refer to the same event. History has been rewritten several times, and we can name more than one situation where books have been burned and some topics have been censored. I will continue the list with some other examples of truth subcategories. Mother's love truth refers to the truth that underlines how a mother usually has positive opinions on her child's behavior, often diminishing the seriousness of their action and the gravity of a wrong decision. The cause is that after investing and sacrificing a lifetime to support and educate the children, it is easier for some to neglect than admit that their grown-ups are not quite a benefit for society as they thought. A continuous activation of the cognitive biases supported by the inertia in need. Throughout history, we have many examples of mothers who have chosen to become accomplices to their murderous sons or daughters, rather than accepting the evidence and consequences and reporting them to the police. Another type would be the relationships of truth, the one that most of us feel at the beginning of a new relationship, when everything seems perfect and we refuse to see the most of the red flags or indicators that pop up. In this case, the biochemical explanation might be found in the hormones' influence on rational thought. Another related topic might be the cultural perception of monogamous and polygamous relationships, which usually leads to controversial conversations, fact or opinion-based. Social media truth is often the version that most of us embrace until they post, and is the narrative they want others to unquestionably believe. They are also willing to fight for it if ever confronted. It is one of the most controversial, since it can contribute to boosting or destroying the reputation of any individual, with information only sometimes genuine and based on actual events. For instance, an influencer's most quickly share content supporting their cause than to vary the quality. The religious truth often represents a fact of faith that may not necessarily have a logical explanation. These narratives have usually been a combination of events, interpretation, and symbols aimed at delivering the desired message. Religious motivation have been highly effective and powerful in leading and inspiring masses throughout history. On the other hand, they have also led to dangerous consequences when the information was to deliver less tolerant messages. Many events that have had religious motivation have happened and are currently happening globally. Some people believe only their God is the real one and are less tolerant of the ones that support different opinions. Cultural truth is the imprinting each of us absorb from the environment in which we were born and raised. Standards, habits, myths, filters, stereotypes, perception of the world, and storytelling, just to name a few. Culture is a collection of standard rules, traditions, customs, attitudes, values, regulations, and practices specific to a particular social group. Michael Albert stated the following: if you want to designate with a single word a set of individual behaviors shared by most of a population, the assembly that relies on institutions, on rules recognized by everyone, and on a common heritage, we are obliged to talk about culture. It is essential to point out that the truth can change its shape, features, and characteristics based on the cultural background of the witnesses. Children learn and accumulate beliefs from their parents. The parent usually makes small societal groups, school, community, and even religious choices before the child has a choice. Everything they see in the first years of their life becomes second nature, their filters and worldview. Gerd Hofstede defines culture as mental software, a collective programming of the mind that establishes the identity of each social group. This gives specificity and originality to each group, but can also be a source of conflict based on the different ways of perceiving and supporting the truth. Customs, traditions, and standard rules vary based on geographical location. Moral truth pertains to individuals' stance on life circumstances shaped by their values and principles. For instance, it manifests in how people respond to controversial news, be it about corruption or positive events like acts of charity, how they react to a friend's confession, or their perspective on concepts such as death, sacrifice, or conflict. The organizational truth completes the classifications presented above. It includes the set of values, principles, and dynamics. Depending on their unique backgrounds, individuals exposed to the same content or witnessing the same event are highly likely to perceive varying nuances and numerous specific details. For instance, we might be looking at the same football game, paying more attention to some players' good performances and denying those of the ones we like less, based on our already existing biases and what we unconsciously want to see. Alternatively, we might look at the same political debate and see a completely different reality based on our pre-existing biases. One person's truth may be another's lie, fake news, propaganda, or disinformation. The truthfulness of information depends on various variables and criteria. One of the aspects I appreciate the most about our days is what we are paying more and more attention to what feed our bodies. As the saying goes, we are what we eat. Following the same logic, we are also what we consume, read, and post. So why wouldn't we want to be in control of what we consume in the information environment? It is common knowledge that it's beneficial to read more than one book before forming an opinion about a complex topic, and to be open to debating, discussing, analyzing, and recognizing what might be influenced by personal biases or something else. So, it should be helpful to understand how we develop our biases, how we can try to detect them, control them when they kick in, and choose whether they are feeding or intoxicating our thoughts. The first information we get in contact with becomes the reference and works like an anchor. The saying goes, there is no second chance to make a good first impression, because everything that follows will depend on it. No one is immune to confirmation bias. As human beings, our brains have evolved and survived, in part thanks to their pattern recognition capability. It is usual for us to compare every new piece of information with the one that we already have in mind, allowing us to learn and to choose fast. This process has allowed us to quickly detect dangerous threats or catch opportunities by comparing with the pre-existing patterns. That is why, once we recognize something, getting out of the confirmation bias spin may prove challenging. We often risk finding ourselves in an echo chamber, bouncing back everything but the filtered information supporting our first perception, along with the form, fueled by everyday experience, deeply rooted in our subconscious. They might be related to a single high-impact event or gradually build over time, brick by brick, without us even noticing. Communicating out the necessity of information, as desperate as the need may be, an answer must be provided as soon as possible. If not, being the second to respond will already provoke conflict. One must argue against the initial information encountered. After being under the spell of confirmation bias, you risk entering an echo chamber, where you filter channels that echo what you want to hear and repeatedly encounter the same information. Picture yourself walking down the street, checking out the updates on your social media feed. Across the street, someone else is also walking, absorbed in their own digital world, encountering a different set of information. This example illustrates how we live in bubbles, leading to a more polarized global society than ever before. Algorithms reinforce our existing biases, depending on our beliefs and influencing our future action. The boiling frog recipe is one of the many examples we can discuss about this topic. It begins with the following situation. If you want to cook a frog, how can you do it? If you boil the water and toss the frog in, you won't end up with it boiled, likely with no frog at all. Frogs aren't keen on being boiled, and who can blame them? To achieve the desired result, put the frog in a container with the warm water. Set it on the stove and turn the heat on low. Let the water slowly warm up until it reaches boiling. This way, the frog won't notice the danger until it's too late to escape, as the gradual heat will drain its energy. Moreover, here is the analogy with biases. Long and complex is the way to plant and grow their seeds, and even more complex will be the way to get them out or change them. One of the lessons here is that where the reality or the truth is shocking, people tend to refuse. So the secret sometimes lies in taking the time, doing it properly, not rushing for the desired objective, and using the already recognized ingredients to make it easier to accept. Some attitudes, behaviors, and truths are easier to change than others. Weaker attitudes like fruit preferences are easier to change, but topics in which the target audience could be more invested, attitudes regarding political parties, abortion, weapons regulations, etc., might be more challenging to deal with. Strong attitudes and behaviors are much more resistant, but not impossible to change. But now the question is, how can we recognize when someone is attempting to convince us to play the role of the frog? And also, have you changed your answer from the beginning of the video? Let me know in the comments what you think about all that we discussed today. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more stuff like this, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you want a way to increase your value as a person, either by getting jacked body, making lots of money, or attracting people, and of course, if you want to support the channel, you can click the link in the description. It's that easy. Until then, have an amazing day.